3 Hello and warm welcome to everyone from London or all over the world for the 5th edition of the Living Room study by RTL AdAlliance and straight from the ITV offices here in London. I'm Stéphane Koruble, I'm CEO of RTL AdAlliance, and in a few moments we will deep dive into the new data, discovering fresh insights from our latest edition of the Living Room study. This year's theme is the living room where everyone comes together, hinting, obviously, the importance of co-viewing and alliances in today's media world. So our Senior Marketing Director, Aurélie Brunet de Coursou, will lead you through the newest data and the newest research. And for once, she will be accompanied by another expert in her field, Marion Ranchet, founder of Streaming Made Easy, a recognized expert on the European video market. And then later on, we will welcome one of our clients, Guy Rogers. He's Senior Strategy Manager EMEA at Lenovo, and he will talk to us about how Lenovo Yoga campaign pushed the boundaries of digital TV and leverage data and maximize marketing outcomes. But first of all, I have the pleasure to welcome Kelly Williams, our host of the day, who is Managing Director Commercial ITV here in London. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you very much.
I think we've known each other for quite a long time. I think it's more than 10 years now.
It is. You don't look any different.
Yeah, you neither. So thanks. First of all, thank you for hosting us in your wonderful offices here in White City.
You're welcome.
So, as you know, the Living Room study reflects who we are in Europe. So we're not one big united Europe. We are very fragmented. We are very different from a cultural aspects and the way to consume media. And I think this piece of research will show again this year how different we are, country by country, and we will see around the 15 countries that where we operate, how there are different ways of consuming total video. We see that linear is evolving, but also digital is evolving. There's a lot of changes happening. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming. And I think it's important that we come back to the roots and we make a distinction between what's real and what's noise. And this is what I would like to talk about with you today, if we can take a few minutes.
Sure.
As a start, I would like you to comment a slide that I discovered a few weeks ago during the ITV Palooza that you showed, and we tweaked it a little bit with linear TV in Europe, but I would like to have your opinion. How do you interpret these slides in our today's world, and where there's a lot of noise and we need to go back to some very, very basic principles?
Mm-hmm. Well, we had a bit of a different version of that when we presented it. We were presenting, I think at the time, we were trying to make the point that linear TV is not dead. And what we were comparing was ITV linear versus the ad tiers of Disney and Amazon and Netflix. And you know, just ITV's linear on its own completely and utterly dwarfs the scale in terms of reach and volume of viewing of both of those. But look, we are definitely seeing, you know, as everybody is around the world, you know, massive change in the way people are viewing television. And of course, linear is in decline, and I think it will continue to decline as more and more viewing happens via the internet. However, as we sit here today, it's still very, very strong. And from reading this report, it's clearly even stronger in some European territories than it is perhaps in the UK.
So indeed, TV is huge, and everyone wants to be TV in those days. I believe, you know, our competitors, we want to be TV, obviously, but we are, I guess. So we come back to the definition, and you know, at RTL AdAlliance, we know we have rebranded the acronym TV into total video. Some other countries are talking about total TV. What is for you the meaning of this acronym in the UK?
Sure, yeah. Look, I really like the phrase total TV, and the way kind of we're thinking about it is that why are we trying to define it? And I think there are two reasons we're trying to define it. One for our advertisers, for the industry, and one is for viewers. And we've got so many different definitions, you know, of TV. You've got CTV and BVOD and AVOD and FAST and all of these acronyms. You know, we're kind of like, there's this huge acronym soup that we're all kind of...
It's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. And look, you don't go home and say, I'm going to watch a bit of CTV tonight, do you? Or I'm going to watch a bit of FAST tonight. You go home and go, I'm going to watch some TV tonight. So look, from an industry and advertiser perspective, the way we look at defining TV, I think TV has to have four things. Firstly, it has to be professionally produced. Secondly, it has to be regulated. Thirdly, it has to be viewed by, it has to be complied by a human. And fourthly, it has to be independently measured. They're the four things in my head, or if I was an advertiser, I would think of when I'm thinking about television. You know, regulated, independently measured, professionally produced, and viewed by a human. Every single piece of content that we put out is complied by a human being. And I think that's really important. However, for a viewer doesn't really care about those four things. But what those four things deliver for a viewer is trust. And so that's the fifth, I think, that really comes to define total TV. So they're the five things, those five things for me that are important for defining TV. And I think TV shows up in two ways, mass and addressable. And that's the way our industry is evolving. And clearly, as more and more of our content is delivered via the internet, addressable is going to become more and more important. Like, we think about 30% of our inventory will be addressable by the end of this year. And that's only going to continue as more and more people, as we transition as an industry from being, you know, a broadcast medium to a medium delivered via the internet.
That's really interesting what you say about this fifth pillar of the fifth consistencies of TV. As a matter of fact, I fully agree with that. You know, you're mentioning the fact that TV is about linear and streaming or addressable. We will see and we will soon discover during the piece of research presented today that TV or linear TV is still at the very heart of the consumption of most of the consumers, even on CTV screens. At the same time, we also see there's a huge progression of the usage of streaming, whether it's paid streaming or ad-funded streaming. Obviously, for you, it's the same. At ITV, you have developed quite a few years ago your own and operated platform called ITVX, which is increasingly strong in terms of audiences, but also in revenues. Could you tell us a little bit more about, you know, the level of revenues, maybe in percentages?
Sure.
And also, what do you see is the further development, or the second part of the development of your platform?
Sure. So look, we launched ITVX as a product at the end of 2022. Prior to that, we had a streaming service called ITV Hub. Prior to that, we had a streaming service called the ITV Player. But I guess the big difference for ITVX is what we try to do is create more of a destination as opposed to a catch-up service. So ITVX, clearly you can catch up on any show on ITV, but there's lots of specific content that is either commissioned or bought or acquired that is only on ITVX. So it has it's a much richer amount of content on there. I think when we launched ITVX, we had 11,000 hours of content on it. We have nearly 30,000 hours of content on ITVX today. We've seen considerable growth in terms of audience and revenue. So we have just over 43 million registered users to ITVX. So it's a free player. It's advertiser funded. You can pay a subscription to not have ads. It's not massive. We have about 1 million subscribers. You know, it's a decent revenue stream at $5.99 a month, but it's not the ultimate goal. We are a free-to-air public service broadcaster, and ITVX is a free-to-air streaming service and is the biggest commercial streaming service in the UK. So last year, well, I think we've just done our results, so I can share this. But last year, we turned over just under £500 million in addressable revenue, which is mainly ITVX, but we're now starting to see addressable revenue turn up on our live streams on the various platforms in the UK that deliver live over the internet. So that's Sky Glass, Sky Stream, Virgin Media, IP, and YouView. And that's starting to get some scale. And we now have the capability to be able to digitally ad insert on all of our channels on all of those platforms.
On the linear?
On linear, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 500 million in terms of percentages amongst your total revenue?
It's about just under 30%.
30%. Wow. I remember a few years ago, broadcaster, if we were doing like 5% of digital, our total revenue, it was a record. Now you're about 30%. I think you're one of the leading players in Europe on that field. That's really clear. As you know, maybe another subject, as you know, at RTL AdAlliance, we're very fond of alliances and collaboration. Just a few months ago, we inaugurated new types of alliances, which goes into the direction of more consolidation in Europe. So we announced a partnership with France Télévisions in France, together with M6, that we do also represent. We have the same as well in Austria, where we're running our own RTL and operated platform and ad sales house. But we have agreed with ORF, one of our stronger partner and competitor on the local market, to partner with us from an international perspective. So we strongly believe in collaboration. So as I said earlier, we've been collaborating with ITV for the last or more than 10 years, I think. What does collaboration mean for you at ITV? And could you give us also some examples of collaboration on the UK market?
Look, I feel very passionately about collaboration. I think as an industry, it's the way we will thrive is through collaboration, whether that's, look, as TV businesses, we've collaborated within the TV industry for many, many years here in the UK. We've created Barb, the measurement system. We've created ThinkBox. We've created Clearcast, which regulates all the advertising. So we've got a history of collaboration within TV. But I think over the last few years, we've tried to radically, I guess, collaborate with as many different people. So look, we started selling our own content on YouTube in beginning of January last year. That was a big decision for us to lean in to YouTube, and we initially were selling what we call the ITV network content on which is the content that we broadcast, our regular schedule. So we've been putting long-form content on YouTube for about 18 months. We also sell the ITV Studios archive. They have a huge archive of content that they put out there that has a huge global reach, but we sell on their behalf in the UK. And as of January, we've just started representing Banijay in the UK. So we now represent Banijay's back catalogue. So that's been quite an interesting journey. I think it's still a trial for us. We've sold it very well. We pretty much sold it out.
So would you do it again?
Well, we're gonna carry on for now. But look, it's a what's the best way of describing it? Look, it's a frenemy kind of relationship, isn't it? YouTube the team we work with at YouTube have been great to deal with, but they don't have a huge amount of autonomy in the UK. Every decision has to go back to the States. So it's every time we want to develop anything, it takes time, but we're making progress. And look, the team here, I think, have done a really, really good job at selling YouTube, which is why we are, looking at kind of, setting ourselves up as a sales house for YouTube inventory. So we'll be looking to represent other people, but we're working with the streamers. We have quite an interesting deal with Disney Plus, where we swap inventory. So we have a Disney Plus rail on ITVX, and they have an ITVX rail on Disney Plus in the UK. We sell we sell a Disney Plus rail on ITVX, and they sell the ITVX rail on Disney Plus. If that makes sense. Yeah. So we're effectively representing some of their content. We've just struck a deal with TikTok at the end of last year. So we're one of the first UK broadcasters. We can now sell our content on TikTok, and we have a lot of content around some of our big shows that turns up there that we've never been able to monetize before. So yeah, look, everywhere I turn, we're trying to collaborate. But I think the two big things for me this year that I'm most excited about are the collaboration we have with Channel 4 and Sky around universal ads. So we see the whole SME market as being...
It was announced last year in Cannes.
Yeah,
right?
Well, we announced our intention to do it in Cannes. Our friends at Sky and Channel 4 really wanted an announcement at Cannes. We've spent the last 9 months working on how we're going to do it, how we're going to contract it, because we're going to use universal ads differently to how it's used in the States. But we haven't announced that yet, so I probably can't go into that. But we are pretty close to signing a contract and looking to launch an alpha product, hopefully in Q2. But that's trying to target a completely new market for TV, which I think is a big opportunity. And the second one is what we call Project Lantern. Now, we at ITV, we've invested a lot of money recently, probably over the last 3 or 4 years in measuring outcomes for advertisers. TV has not been very good at doing that over the years, mainly because of the lack of data. We're very good at measuring outputs, like reach and frequency and how many people have seen your ad, but not what did they go on and do. And so we've spent a lot of time building really interesting tools to be able to prove the effectiveness of, not just the effectiveness of TV, but the effect TV has on the other media you buy. And one of the things we've learned in that first 3 years is, in reality, we're not trying to just measure the effectiveness of ITV. We need to measure the effectiveness of TV. So we need to collaborate with our colleagues at Channel 4 and Sky, and that's what Lantern is. It's a very significant collaboration that is going to fuse ad exposure data that we get from set-top box data from Sky and from YouView, and fusing that ad exposure data with an always-on panel, so we can measure what people go on and do in the short and the near term, which we think will be really, really exciting for advertisers, and I think help TV really compete with the big global digital platforms.
Well, that's very interesting, and I see a lot of dynamics, obviously, on your market, a lot of tryouts as well. From our perspective, as I told you, collaboration is really at the heart of RTL AdAlliance, but also in other markets. We launched, for instance, this collaboration with HBO Max in Germany, where we are building together this new CTV and streaming market and bringing to the advertisers. So this is what we do in other parts of Europe and at RTL AdAlliance. And I'm glad that ITV is our partner for many, many years. What we're trying to do, obviously, from our perspective, is to bring a pan-European video marketplace that we can connect to the clients and the agencies of the world in order to be competing eye-to-eye level with the GAFA, which is, I think, very much important. Let's change a little bit of, let's say, topic to finish the discussion on the creative side of things. A few weeks ago at the ITV screening, I think it was in December, you made a super powerful point about the relationship between iconic brands, creatives, and television. And we have a video to show you, and I would like you to comment on this video afterwards.
Sure. Can I just say something before we play the video?
Of course.
The point I was trying to make when we were talking to, we have our upfronts it was in end of November, just is the importance of trying to get people to come back to the fundamentals of advertising. And the point I was trying to make is that 95% of people that see your ad are not in the market to buy your product and service at that moment, but they might remember it when they are in market. That's 95% aren't in market. So it's really important that people remember your ad. Advertising, ultimately, for me, is a competition for memory. And memory structures in the brain are built through emotion. So the more emotionally you can engage with a consumer, the more chance you have of that message sticking in the consumer's memory when they are in market. And TV, for me, is the most powerful medium on the planet at doing that, because television engages emotionally all the time. You know, we all make tons of content that emotionally engage. Good advertising emotionally engages, and good advertising tends to be audio-visual advertising. But TV has high attention metrics, it has high trust metrics, so it has the ability to deliver that multiplier effect. You know, when you're on TV, all the other media that you're buying as an advertiser tend to do better. And so we as a TV industry must never forget that superpower that we have, that often gets forgotten as a result of kind of all of the short-term performance metrics that the platforms tend to churn out with their wonderful dashboards. That this ability to connect emotionally is the most important. So I think the ad we're about to see it was just one of my favorite ads. I think it was actually the year before last, but because we've got the World Cup this year, I thought I would just replay it again.
I think it's great.
If that's the ad.
Yeah.
And this is an ad for
ad.
Adidas. We actually helped Adidas, if that's how you pronounce it. We actually helped Adidas make the ad, because a lot of the content in it was actually originally shot by ITV in various different news breaks. But
let's have a look at the power of emotions in TV, indeed.
Played now to Teddy Sheringham. Trying to get Shearer on the right side. Gascoigne went flying in there. Of the European Championships, players standing, lying in disbelief.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart.
They need to feel this pain.
Then you can start.
They'll come back stronger.
To make it better. And every time you feel the pain, hey Jude, refrain. Don't carry the world upon your shoulder. Remember to let her under your skin. Then you begin to make it better.
Bellingham goes for goal!
Gets under your skin, right?
Yeah. You might need to be English.
But you want to sing, bro. No, I think in this world of short-term performance, reporting, dashboard, I think this power of emotion, I think, is fantastic. Do you want to comment additionally on this?
Well, look, I think as I just think it gets often forgotten by advertisers, and I think what great advertising, look, ultimately, what in the current economic, we've had very sluggish economy for what feels like forever, and I saw a report the other day. McKinsey said that this is the year of brand, and when you kind of dig into why they're saying that, what all of our economies have got to do is try and grow, and that is what brand marketing does. Performance marketing is the conversion side of the equation. Brand marketing is what generates demand. and performance marketing is converting that demand. And I think we've got the balance wrong, and we've oversteered as an industry into those short-term performance metrics. Now, if you read anything from Burnett and Field, they'll tell you that it needs to be 60-40 in favour, 60% of your revenue on brand marketing and 40% on performance. I was at a presentation last week where WPP they had a global strategy, was presenting. Very, very powerful presentation on a load of work they had done across all of their clients, across all of the regions in Europe. And their conclusion was that it should be 84-16 in favour of brand marketing if you really want to grow your brand. And look, it's going to be different by category. But the one thing that we're trying to get across to our customers at the moment is if you want to grow as a business, you've got to invest in brand marketing and not give in to the short term. I get why they go short term, but if you want to really grow your business long term, and I look at all of the businesses that are succeeding, who are advertising consistently over years and years on TV, they've invested in brand consistently over that time, and the power of compound creativity over that time, increases your chances of growing your brand. So I just think it's incredibly important for all advertisers to think about brand marketing.
Thank you, Kelly. I think it's a great conclusion, moving from the 30-70 into the 86.
Yeah,
no?
84-16.
Yeah, 84-16. I think would be great. I think it's a great objective ahead of us. Thank you for responding and to be here for this Fireside chat. I suggest now so thank you again, and we move to the rest of the presentation. A big round of applause for Kelly. And now I am delighted to welcome to the stage our Senior Marketing Director, Aurélie Brunet de Courceau, who will be accompanied by Marion Ranchet, founder of Streaming Made Easy. Marion is an expert of the European media industry and streaming in particular. And they will talk to us everything about this new piece of research and the 5th edition of the Living Room research by RTL AdAlliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stéphane. Marion, so good to have you. First year.
Thank you.
Well, I think we can acknowledge that the casting this year was 100% French women on stage.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Britain. Well, thank you very much. I like that because we're going to give you some French accent for the next half hour. So brace yourselves. Be gentle with us. Be gentle. I'm delighted to be here with you this year. I'm usually on the other side of the screen watching this, so this is exciting. But you've been doing this for a few years, right?
Yes, this is indeed the 5th edition. So let's start. For the fans, there are some fans in the room, I know, and for the newcomers, with a quick presentation of the Living Room study. So the Living Room study is our proprietary study. It is a deep dive into what the Europeans watch, so it's about video consumption. And every year, we broaden its geographical scope. So we've added Hungary, China this year, so we now cover 15 markets in Europe, plus US and China.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have these additional markets to actually get a better perspective on Europe. And our industry has a bit of a lazy habit. When something happens in the US within weeks, it becomes a strategy talking point in Europe too. AVOD is booming, ad tiers are the future, this one, linear TV is dead. We've heard that many times, but the data tells a different story. And it has been telling that story for many years, but people were not reading the right study, right?
So true. So, I think what makes this study quite powerful is also the granularity that it allows. We have interviewed almost 15,000 people, so across the different markets. They are aged 18 to 64, and they are representative of their country in terms of gender, age, employment status, and regions. So this is all about video viewing, as I said. So one of the very first questions we ask every year is about on which device do people enjoy watching video. And you can already see something very clear is that Europe stands out, that the TV set is very central. For example, in China, the video consumption is more mobile-driven. And then we zoom in on the TV sets, and for good reason. So now 90% of the Europeans equipped with a TV tell us that they have a CTV, so a TV set that is one way or another connected to the internet. And when it comes to CTV, I think this is really the fragmentation pictures we've all known for years now. So the Europeans, they go on a daily basis on their TV set and they watch a wide variety of platforms, right? So 44% go on total TV. So it breaks into 39% linear TV, 16% broadcast VOD, so the streaming platform of the broadcasters. 32% go on AVOD FAST, so that groups the likes of YouTube, Twitch, Pluto TV, and Samsung TV Plus. And 30% would go on a daily basis on the TV set to watch some SVOD platforms.
What strikes me here right away is how much ad-funded video consumption is actually predominant. And it's a trend we're seeing in the US too. 80-20%, that's the number we've been hearing for the last few months. 80% of ad-funded viewer versus 20% ad-free. And you have companies like Roku who are actually predicting that the ad-free viewer will go extinct by 2026. Now, Americans have embraced free streaming maybe in more ways than we've had, but also because what we've been used to, and we've had more than enough to play with linear TV and their broadcast companion.
So, thank you, Marion. And now that we have introduced the study, let's delve into some key findings of the 2026 edition.
So the global media ecosystem has a favorite word. We've said it a few times already, us and before, which is fragmentation. Audiences are splitting across platforms. Attention spans are shrinking. Long-form content is being carved out into short forms to feeds that reward speed over substance. Ask anyone in the industry, including you guys, and everyone will say it is the condition of the industry. Now, instead of focusing on fragmentation, we decided to dig deeper to understand what links us together as individuals, as viewers across Europe.
Yeah, and social media was supposed to bring us closer, right? But actually what people tell us across Europe, the US, and to a lesser extent China, is that they feel that the social media platform, they have lost the ability to create real social bonds. And more than 70% of the respondents, Europeans and Americans, agree with this statement.
I think that even social media platforms themselves actually acknowledge that. Meta, a few months ago, shared some key stats for us. 17% on Facebook, 7% on Instagram of people who are actually watching content from friends. We've also noticed that people are less about posting on social, but more about that passive scrolling. And so that creates a void, and it begs a question. If social is not able to create that connection, where do people still connect, Aurélie?
Well, I think the answer is very clear. In Europe, it's a living room. So the Europeans, they have created the most living room-centric viewing culture. So when we ask the people in which room they would most often watch some video content, it doesn't matter what type of video, over all the regions, they would say the living room. But now the preference is really striking in Europe. So 83% would choose a living room to watch some video, and that's quite a strong number.
Yeah, we can see that in China and the US too. Fascinating to see how the bedroom is becoming a key place, and it's a close second to the living room. So what drives Europeans to the living room? It is that shared viewing experience around that big screen. And 64% of Europeans are watching video content on TV every day. That's 23% more than the US, 24% more than China. If you look at the French market, at the top, it is tiny, but it is at 74%. Hungary, on the other hand, is down by 40 points. But regardless, TV time remains a crucial part of our culture and our habits in Europe.
Yeah. So we meet in the living room. We watch the big screen with other people in the room. And I think what is quite surprising is that actually it's a young audience, so the 1834, who tell us that they really need those moments of human presence, right? So it's almost 7 out of 10 Europeans aged 1834 that say that watching video content together really creates strong social bonds.
Could be that digital natives actually feel that even more strongly than we do, and they need a better balance between that real life and that digital life. And we see this everywhere playing out in Amsterdam. I live in Amsterdam. We have an initiative called the Offline Club. You actually pay to go to a coffee place, to drink coffee, read books, speak to people phone-free.
Well, maybe I'll come and visit then.
You're more than welcome next time.
So the thing is that not all the platforms have this social power, so to say, of connection. And for instance, what reunites the young audience, so here we're looking at the 18-24 years old, is what brings them together is linear TV and SVOD. And linear TV, we see, brings families together in the living room, and the SVOD platforms are more intimate, and they are more about otherwise those group of friends, gathering to watch their favorite series.
Yeah, YouTube, on the other hand, fulfills a different need. It fills those solo moments, and actually the algorithm is very much made that way, right? To fit one person, you can jump in and out as you want. That reduces the need to start together or agree on anything, which it's getting harder and harder by the day. I don't know about you. But those are the two ingredients of co-viewing.
Yes, I agree.
And so beyond the room, the device, the platforms, what brings us together, first and foremost, is content. The official measure, BARB, shared the top 15 titles watched by the British in 2025. And we looked at 3 titles, and we looked specifically at their co-viewing index. And you can see this plays out across genre. You have the drama series Trigger Point, which was broadcasted on ITV with a 65% co-viewing index. The reality comedy series LOL on Prime at 69%, and Sky Original, Rob and Ramesh Versus at 69%. And when you look at those numbers, what you think is that co-viewing is not a niche behavior. It is very much the norm for premium content.
So why does it all matter to brands? And I think there is this universal truth, right? That when people watch content together, then the ad break becomes conversation time. And what we see with the living room is that 4 out of 5 viewers, they say that they stay in the room for the ad break and they discuss with the other people in the room. So that reframes what an ad break is worth. And ultimately, why it matters to advertisers is because co-viewing has a real impact on the ad performance. And for example, there is the impact on the ad recall is 23% higher if you watch an advertising with other people rather than alone. And I don't know you, but you comment on it, you sing the song, and that's what makes really stick. It really, anchors much strongly in memory.
You got goosebumps. I had that just like 20 minutes ago watching, the British enjoying football. Absolutely. So here we are. Social media promised connection. It actually delivered isolation. While that happened, the living room kept doing what it always did, connect us. Europe as an edge that no other region can claim. The question is, what are we going to build with it? And the last 18 months has started giving an answer.
Yes, what's really unique about Europe, of course, I can say that as a French person, is the strength of the local broadcaster. And they have been delivering for decades this quality content for free. And now the Europeans, when they turn on their TV sets, where do they go? 62% go on total TV. That's huge. 48% turn on their TV set and go and watch what's on linear TV. 14% go and watch what's on broadcast VOD. 29% go to SVOD, and 9%, again, as a first destination on their TV set, will go to AVOD fast platform, so the likes of YouTube, Pluto TV, or Samsung TV Plus.
That's interesting, but can we take a quick look at the evolution year on year? And particularly, I'm keen to see the numbers for broadcast video and demand. And unsurprisingly, it's grown 6% year on year. I'm not surprised. We've heard Kelly speak about ITVX. I think all the European broadcasters have really entered their streaming era. And it shows those platforms are no longer just a replay and support of their live broadcast operation. They're really becoming entertainment platforms in their own rights. If you take a look at French broadcasters TF1 or M6, they've relaunched and rebranded those platforms 2 years ago. They offer in between 15 to 30K on-demand title on top of their live portfolios. They innovate, bringing vertical content in the case of M6. TF1 has been, dabbling with micropayments. They've just launched last week a podcast section. So those platforms are really becoming multi-vertical entertainment platforms.
Yeah, and also a key strength of the European broadcaster is the proximity that they have with the audience. And broadcast content, both linear TV and on the streaming platform, is really where the people go and watch the local stories that really reflect their culture, their daily lives. So of course, it's about news, but it's also the sport, the series, the documentaries, those big entertainment programs with local celebrities, and that proximity really reinforces emotional engagement.
So if you take a quick look at that 20 and 21%, my bad, I just keep it in mind because it explains a lot about some of the moves that we've seen from global streamers in the region.
And last but not least, the European broadcaster, they lead the trust KPI, which is one of the most valuable assets in advertising. And I think Kelly was also mentioning it a few minutes ago. So we asked the European viewers if they encounter a brand for the first time on various platforms and media, if they would trust that brand. And, well, a lot of numbers, you can see, I will just highlight a few. So 61% would trust a brand they see for the first time on linear TV. Broadcast VOD is very strong, 56%. 40% for YouTube, and 33% for social media. So, and a brand seen on linear TV is almost twice as trusted as an ad on social media. So the European broadcasters have major strength. We just listed a few, but I don't think we are going to list them all right now.
No, let's take a quick look at artifacts instead. And this map you're looking at, it's a partnership map, and I think it's the strongest validation possible of what European broadcasters have built. You look at who is on this slide: Amazon, Netflix, Samsung. Those are some of the biggest companies in the world, and they're sitting across the table from broadcasters signing deals. Ask yourself why. They don't do that out of politeness. They don't need that. They do it because they know they cannot necessarily replicate the credibility, the editorial trust, nor the live shared experience that European broadcasters have built over decades. If buying was possible, that would be super nice.
Would be nice.
When Netflix embeds TF1 in its platform, when Amazon carries France Télévisions or Pluto partners with M6, each of those decisions was made because the platform saw something in broadcasting that it could not build on its own.
Yes, I think it's the same logic with a different platform. So YouTube is the largest video service on the planet, and it does not need European broadcasters to exist, but it does to keep growing. And the broadcasters, they have some content on YouTube, all of them. So most of the time, it's going to be some clips, some best of, some shorts as well. But apart from the UK and Kelly, what also Kelly was presenting, when we look at continental Europe, it's still early days for those advanced partnerships, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why YouTube has been on the campaign trail in 2025, saying YouTube is TV, to strike deals with publishers across the world. So deals like the one with the BBC to co-create formats, innovative formats, sharing press credentials with YouTube creators for the Olympics with NBC. Those partnerships would have been unthinkable a few years ago. Broadcasters are still uncertain. about the economics of it all. I think it's still a work in progress, but the next few years will be telling as to whether partnering with YouTube was make or break for broadcasters.
Indeed. But now let's have a closer look at what triggers all this collaboration between the players. And I think what the overall numbers of the living room study shows us is that no platform dominates to the point of making the others irrelevant. And there is a complementarity between them. And for example, in terms of profile, so broadcast VOD brings a younger audience to broadcast content. SVOD, of course, skews younger, fast, and hosting platform have a more balanced profile. And also they strike deals because there is a complementarity in usage. Those platforms, they serve different viewer needs. So as you would expect, linear TV is very much about, of course, live content, and Netflix, for instance, skews more heavily towards on-demand, when YouTube is more serving both needs, right?
Yeah, I think streamers, haven't been Europeans' go-to when it comes to live consumption, in part due to the fact that initially they didn't want to do any live. They were very focused on on-demand. Also, they are still lacking the local live events that will bring Europeans to the big screen. So where are we now? What do? We embrace our strength, we protect our assets, and we go play the new rules with one thing at the center of it: content.
Okay, so I would say when we talk about iconic content, we should have a look at a video.
Back in the city, it's time, ain't no turning back. Rewind, it's all or nothing, put it all on the line. I see it, I want it, I take it, it's mine. It's a Super Bowl. Who you got, who you rooting for? You remember with us, yeah, we toe-to-toe. Look and see them, they shoot, man, they losing hope. Sin City, but I got with me, yeah, the pressure on, still calm in me. All the blood, sweat, tears hard on me, but the highs and lows making harmony. Hold up, whoa, y'all are not hearing me, whoa. It ain't no fear in me, I hear them cheer. 60,000 in the stands, 100 million tuned in. It don't get any bigger than this. It don't get any bigger. It don't get any bigger than this. Touchdown, do my dance, whoa. 60,000 in the stands, whoa. It don't get any bigger than this. Couple ends with the NIL. You can tell my opponent I wish him well. I'm a big deal with it, can't you tell? Got him maxed out in the NFL. Couple rings and mementos. Whole team keep it 10 toes. Got my head high at the same time. Keep my head down, gotta stay low. Sin City, but I got with me. Yeah, the pressure on, still calm in me. All the blood, sweat, tears hard on.
Amazing trailer, thank you for that. So all of those new partnerships that we've seen are also triggered by changing viewing habits. And a new question we asked this year, in part because we've seen those new habits coming into play, is the consumption of long-form content broken down into clips. Think full episode cut into 5-minute segments for social platforms. So the behavior is now widespread, but you can clearly see the difference from one region to the other, with China sitting at 90%, the US 71%, and Europe at 43%. And so that gap matters, again, because we are changing, but more slowly, more selectively than others. And the appetite for short form is here, it's real, it's just not exactly the same appetite.
Yes, and within Europe, the variation is significant. So still looking at this long-form content broken into shorter clips. If you look at Hungary and Spain, it's 63%, 57%, so quite close to the US level. But then look at Germany, 31%. Where do we have Austria at 30%, Finland at 29%. So this really matters for anyone, of course, planning a pan-European campaign, because we all know that, but Europe is not one market, right? It is, a collection of markets with very different local speeds. So we see it very clearly. Iconic content has this capacity of transforming, of breaking the walls of the living room. And the fans, then, what do? They discuss it on social media, of course. So 67% of the 1834 in Europe discussed on social media some content they've watched elsewhere. And 39% would select on their TV a program that they've discovered on social media. So take Love Island. as a random example. So it's one of the biggest hit in the UK. I mean, top show to reach the young audience. And yes, millions tune in to watch it live on ITV2 or to live stream on ITVX. But if you miss an episode, you can go on ITVX and you can catch up on it. You can also listen to the morning after podcast. You can also follow the discussion on Instagram and TikTok. And also, why not follow those YouTubers who are dissecting every moment of it.
Fandom does not build itself, it builds around a community that feels ownership over what they love. And so that requires showing up consistently, everywhere, feeding that conversation, and giving audiences something to hold on to between episodes, between seasons. And historically, the reflex has been to use social media as a redirect. You put a clip, you add a link, you push the audience back to the owned and operated, but broadcasters who have been finding tremendous success right now are doing something much harder. They are actually showing up, like we're seeing here, very natively. They are publishing content that is designed for each of those platforms, rather than just repurpose it. And it's giving the audience a reason to stay before it has a reason to come back. And a social audience will never follow you home if you've not served them somehow on social.
Thank you, Marion. And before heading to our last session with Lenovo, let's take just a few minutes to wrap it up, and to reaffirm what the Living Room Study is about. So our aim every year with the Living Room Study is to analyze the transformation of the video habits consumption in Europe and to give advertisers some guidance, just for them to navigate this complex industry we're in and to make informed choices, right? And this year, we've seen the power of togetherness fueled by this content that is bringing families and nations together. And I think it's very powerful for brands to tap into those shared moments, this collective viewing. There is so much that they can gain out of it. We've seen it. I would say it's not just a live event, the sports we've seen with Adidas, but it's also what we call the comfort TV, right? Those shows who have been on air for years, decades, and are really building the back catalog of the streamers. And for sure, content audiences, they are flowing across the platforms, and it's quite overwhelming. So everyone is trying to bring them, content and viewers, together just in a few places, in one place, to make everyone's life easier. So I think, Marion, the map you've shown, the collaboration map, I'm sure there will be more logos joining in the coming months. But I think it's what is very important is it doesn't mean that those platforms are fueling the same needs for the viewers and for the brands. And beyond the reach and the time span, there is the importance of the mood, the attention, the co-viewing, and so on. So, and those platforms, they are also, we've seen that, also fueling different needs depending on the market specificities. So copy-pasting what you do in your home market most of the time won't work. And in particular, if you are coming from the US or China. So it was a lot of data, but we have even more data if you want some. You can download the white paper on our website. And now I would like to give a warm welcome to Guy Rogers from Lenovo and Jean-Baptiste Mojo from RTL AdAlliance. Thank you, Marion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, first of all, to Aurélie and Marion for all of these great insights. It is clear that Europeans, they have largely adopted online video viewing habits on their big screens. And it's a place where the precision of digital targeting can meet, let's say, the impact of the premium long-form, lean-back experience, the being together. And brands clearly understood how to leverage this one-of-a-kind opportunity to make their product shine, And, well, we have a great example with Lenovo, which is like the #1 PC maker in the world and a great global tech brand that did a unique activation in France for their yoga range. So I'm very pleased to welcome Guy Rogers, who's Senior Strategy Manager EMEA in the media team, to take us through it. Guy, welcome. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I think it's working.
Yeah, good. Hi, yes, I'm good, thank you.
So, Guy, first let's talk about the yoga, because I think within the broader Lenovo range, again, the leading PC maker in the world, the yoga has a very special positioning and a very special audience, right?
So I mean, as you say, Lenovo, biggest PC manufacturer in the world, but we have a problem there because we produce so many different brands. We have other sub brands. We have different products. What most people probably know us for is ThinkPad, which is, you know, the kind of laptop that you'll get given in a workplace. It's normally not your decision. It's your IT manager's decision. Very good product, but very different from what we're doing with yoga. We also have like gaming sub brands. We own Motorola, so we're in the mobile space as well. Yoga is an interesting one because where yoga sits, it's a very premium machine, but it's not just about spec, it's about design as well and the experience of using it. So this product in particular that we featured in this campaign is the 7i. It's a very high spec machine. It's thin, it's beautiful to use, it's light, it doesn't get too hot, it's made of quality materials, it's also flippable, you can use it as a tablet or you can use it as a laptop. The best thing, and I've said this for a long time, the best thing that we could do with yoga almost is just to get people to use it, because if you go and you handle one of these machines, you see what it's all about, but obviously we can't do that, so we have to communicate it through advertising, and that's the challenge.
Okay, and so when talking about this activation that you had in France, what was the particular challenge you had on the market, and what were the objectives that you put behind this campaign?
Yeah, we knew that we're always, because we have different distributions locally and obviously different cultures locally, we have some markets where we have less of a kind of share of mind and share of market than other markets. France for yoga was one of the markets where we were struggling a bit. We felt like people would default to other brands who might be in the market for this. So we had some funding to push ultimately share of market, but more by pushing share of mind. So we were looking to drive awareness, consideration, to change brand perception and to try and get people who might be in the market for a machine like this to just be aware of yoga and of what we offered.
Okay, and so I imagine you have competitors that are deep-pocketed. They can flow all the media. So so what was the solution for yoga to thrive into
Absolutely.
the French without like spending hundreds of millions, like some
that's the difference.
fruit named competitors?
Yeah, fruit named competitors. Yeah, we have a very different corporate culture, and we can't spend those millions. So we have to be so sort of accountable as well. You know, the money that comes to our campaigns is often through alliances. So chip makers help fund campaigns, Intel and AMD and Nvidia and people like that. So we have to be very accountable. And as a result, what we really wanted to do was make sure that we were speaking to the right people who would be in the market for a product like this. We know that that's people who, you know, I mean, as I say, it's a very high-spec machine. It's beautiful. The price tag reflects that. So this is not something, you know, unless you're very lucky and you have rich parents, this is not students. It's not probably somebody who, you know, you're going to struggle to get IT managers to buy it for workplaces. It's going to be people who are buying it for themselves, who really care about the design and the experience of the machine that they're making. We can give loads of examples and loads of data. What we find is that generally when we try and plan this and we talk to vendors, there's a whole different range of approaches. We have people coming back with that interest-led stuff. We have people coming back and saying, you know, we'll target around creativity. You know, you can target people who are frequent posters online and things like that. And it never feels quite right, because that might be the right people, but it might not. It's like one indicator. What was really valuable for us with this campaign that we ran was that we could deliver CTV, which I think for various reasons that have already been discussed today is a really valuable channel, but we could deliver it to just the right people, and we could do that through M6 in France using intent data. We could match M6's data to Boulanger, which is, you know, a big retailer in France, and we could target people who we knew were in the market for the right sort of machines, and you know, would if they weren't going to buy a Lenovo Yoga, they were going to buy something else, right? So we could get into that conversation.
Okay, so the right environment, connected TV, the right target, like the people that were in market for your product, and I guess the right spot. Let's have a look at it.
Lenovo.
So obviously the greatest 15 seconds of ever made. I mean, it's very typical of our ads, and it's, you know, we have a problem in the IT space, right? Because we're trying to talk about stuff that's in itself, it's really interesting because we're trying to talk about, you know, being AI enabled and the power of the machine and showing the beautiful design features. But it's really hard to do that in a TV spot. So, you know, it's even more important that we're reaching the right people, because a lot of people that will just sail right past them and they're not interested.
Okay. When Kelly Williams started the show, he talked about outcomes and how it's became mandatory for everyone, even advertising like on an emotional message in TV. What did you do to measure the outcomes of this particular campaign?
For this particular campaign, we couldn't do sales measurement, because we do have a program of measuring, you know, econometrically and things, but it wasn't in France at that time. What we had to measure was more the effect of the campaign. So we had a brand lift study in place to measure the overall effect. We also had an attention study, so looking at how people actually engage with the ad itself. What was really interesting, first of all, I mean, overall the results were good. We saw quite a big uplift in spontaneous awareness for the people who were exposed to the ad versus the people who weren't, which is always good. We also saw an increase in purchase intent. But what was great was the particular product statement. So, you know, what we were trying to convey in the ad about being a brand that produced products that were AI enabled, about being an innovator, etc. All of that seemed to come through. So that's all great. The next bit that was really good, though, was the attention study.
Oh yeah, attention is fashionable at the moment, and you measured it. Yeah. But can we have a look at the results maybe of attention? I think we got a slide as well.
Yeah. So the great thing for us was, you know, whenever we have these discussions internally about these different audiences, we're always sort of saying, well, you know, there's a consideration there, right? Of you can go for a broader audience and it's no trouble and it's simple. You can pay a little bit more sometimes to go after an audience that's more specific, like the Boulanger data. So how does that actually work? Is it worth it? And what's the premium in that? What the attention data showed us was not only that Boulanger audience that we've managed to create watched more of the ad and were attentive for more of the ad and more engaged with the ad than any of the other audiences, but also that they were not just beating the generic audience, they were also beating people that we were retargeting. So people who we knew had viewed through yoga ads before and we were retargeting, even that audience was less attentive than the Boulanger data. So it just showed us that, you know, the additional kind of trouble and cost, not that it was a huge cost, but the additional trouble and cost of having this really hand-selected audience was very worthwhile. Okay,
so when people are well targeted, they watch the spots because they are really interested in the product, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So great activation, I think very innovative, the outcomes are great. Of course for a specific market, France, but are you looking to replicate this kind of activation in other countries?
Definitely. I mean, we have like an ongoing test and learn program, and I think over the last couple of years, and again, this relates to a lot of stuff that's already been said earlier about, you know, the role of TV in the marketplace. We've been shifting more and more investment to connected TV for a lot of our brands, not just yoga, but other brands too. And when we do that, you know, it opens up these really interesting questions and opportunities for test and learn about audiences. And we're definitely, if we can do things like this in other markets, we will do it. We're looking at something in the UK at the moment. We've run something where we've used InfoSum data to target with an ITV. We will look at it in whatever markets we can to, you know, test and learn and just compare how these different audiences perform for us and how we can continually keep improving what we're doing.
Okay, so big message to all the CTV publishers in the room. Lenovo is looking to do more in new countries.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much. Beyond yoga, I think 2026 is also a very exciting year for Lenovo, and I think we have a video to show what's ahead. Probably a lot of work for you, but let's watch the video first.
The 2026 World Cup will be the biggest single sporting event in the world.
Over 6 billion fans watching.
The world's gone football, and it's powered by Lenovo AI.
Welcome to the FIFA World Cup final. History is created in Soccer City.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce that the Men's World Cup in 2026 and the Women's World Cup in 2027, Lenovo will be the official global technology partner of FIFA. The biggest event in the history will be powered by Lenovo.
Lenovo is providing the full stack of technology solutions to deliver a more efficient technology footprint, demonstrating to the world the transformative power of smarter technology.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's huge for us, obviously. I mean, Lenovo, as I said, like our heritage, because we came out of, especially the laptop business for Lenovo came out of IBM in the past. And I think we've always had this kind of slightly conservative approach. And then the last few years, because we need to talk to new audiences, we need to talk to people about new things, we've shifted into doing more stuff that's around, we have a Formula One partnership that allowed us to talk about technology in more interesting ways. FIFA is an extension of that. So it gives us, it's exciting, it's brilliant. It gives us a challenge because we're trying to talk to people who are in the IT space. It's really mostly aimed at a commercial campaign. So we're trying to talk to people who are like IT managers, procurement managers and stuff, whilst also talking about football, whilst also talking about AI. So these sort of kind of questions about reaching the right audience in the right places are becoming even more important for us.
And I guess a lot of media activations around this sponsorship.
Yeah, a lot. Although we're still, the problem with doing anything with the World Cup is that there's always still, there are still some prominent European footballing nations who are yet to qualify. And still questions over budgets and questions over all of this. But yeah, it's going to be big, and it's going to be a crazy summer for us, I think.
Thank you so much, Guy, for sharing these insights with us today. And this live stream is coming to an end. You can retrieve all the key insights of this 2026 living room study on our website at newlivingroom.tv. And of course, contact the RTL AdAlliance team for a deeper dive into individual countries, platforms, and target groups. Well, thanks to all our speakers. Thank you, Guy, again, for making it today. Thanks to ITV for hosting us, and a very nice rest of the day to all of you. Big round of applause for all speakers.